Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday and happy So What Day. I'm still kind of getting a little bit organized here in my studio for you today, but I have some great projects to share with you, and I hope you're all ready for National Watermelon Day because in a couple of days on August 3rd, it will be National Watermelon Day. And if you're anything like me, you've probably been having a lot of watermelon all summer long. But today we're going to be creating some watermelon out of thread. So, some fun and exciting things in store for you today. Before we get started, though, who out there has gotten their mystery box? Last week, we unveiled our Merry and Bright mystery box at sulky.com. And I must say that a couple of golden tickets have not been claimed yet. So I know there's a couple of you out there maybe still waiting for your boxes to arrive. But I wanted to make sure and remind you, if you are one of the lucky 5 people who received a golden ticket in your mystery box, you've got to follow the directions on your printed golden ticket to redeem your $50 credit at sulky.com. So let me know if you were a golden ticket winner or are a golden ticket winner so that we can all give you a round of applause and celebrate with you. And let me know if you received your mystery box yet, because I can't wait to hear what you all think. I'm just so excited about this one. I just realized that one of my lights is not on. So let me see if I can. I don't know if that's going to make a difference if you can see me any better or not, but there we go. All right, so some people are saying, I ordered my golden ticket, can't wait to receive it. As you know, these mystery boxes go really fast, and I'm shocked to find out this morning from our wonderful Sulky team that, excuse me while I look here, that we have... Oh, I can't see exactly how many we have left, but we have a very, very small quantity of mystery boxes left. And I think from what I was told this morning, there is still one with a golden ticket inside. So if you didn't receive a golden ticket, or if you didn't grab up your mystery box yet, you still have a chance. I'm pretty positive they're going to be gone after this morning. So let's see. Ida says, I received my box on Saturday, but no golden ticket. Oh, wah, wah. Well, at least you got your box, and I hope that you were really excited to see all of the items inside. There's 19 items in the mystery box. 19. I think this is our biggest mystery box yet, and with the highest value perhaps yet, and all kinds of digital materials to go along with this mystery box. You get 2 free patterns. Well, 2 digital patterns are included with your box, and you get a lookbook, which is kind of like a mini magazine that goes along with your mystery box. So if you open up your box and there's some thread or an item that you've never used before, maybe you need some inspiration for how to use it, there's lots and lots of inspiration in that lookbook and in those patterns. So I hope that you all will have fun working your way through your mystery box. And again, if you were not able to grab one up last Tuesday, there is a very limited amount available right now at sulky.com. Tracy says, I ordered mine this morning. Fantastic. Very excited. All right. So Grace says, I received my mystery box and love it, but can't figure out how to get the patterns. All right. So Grace, inside your mystery box is a postcard. All right. So there should be a postcard inside your mystery box there's a little QR code printed on your postcard that you can snap a picture of with your smartphone, and that will take you right to the lookbook where you can navigate through and grab up your patterns. Also on that postcard is a printed website, the URL for a website. It's actually the landing page for all of the digital, accoutrements that go with your mystery box. So be sure when you open up that mystery box, don't throw away that postcard, because that contains the link and that QR code. So you can either snap a pic of the QR code or go directly to the link. And that will have the link to the lookbook, the link to the patterns, everything that you need for the digital items associated with your box. All right, so if you're still having trouble locating that, or if you accidentally threw out the postcard into your recycling, then contact our customer care team at customercare@sulky.com, and they can look up your order number and get it all straightened out for you, because we want to make sure that you get all of, everything that we prepared for you to go along with the items in your box. All right, so let's see. Linda says, I don't do counted cross stitch. Is anything like that in the box? Well, I don't want to really give too much away, Linda, but there is a bonus pattern for a counted cross stitch design. It's really small. It's about this big. And if you don't do projects like that, then the lookbook is really your best friend, because it's going to give you tons of inspirational projects that you can use, the items that you might use for cross stitch or hand embroidery, and you can use them in different ways. So let's say you get a 12 weight thread in your box, and it's a really heavyweight thread, and typically we would use that for cross stitch or hand embroidery. You can also use that for big stitch quilting. You can also use that for applique. And you can use it in your sewing machine as well, because it comes on a spool. You just need a large enough needle to accommodate the thread weight. So when we're working with a lower thread weight, like 12 weight is a really thick thread, versus 40 weight or 50 weight, which is a finer thread, then you need a larger needle so that the needle eye is big enough for that thread to pass through it while you're sewing. I also like to slow my machine speed down when I'm working with a thicker thread, and lengthen my stitch length so that, the stitches aren't too short for that bulky thread. So lots of inspiration again. So if, there's a embroidery thread, a 40 weight thread, let's say, in your box, but you don't do machine embroidery, there's going to be tons of other ways to use that same thread. Does that make sense? So I think there's something for everybody in this box, and a little gift for you to enjoy, to throw in your purse for the summer months. And let's see. Patricia said, I got my mystery box yesterday. Sadly, no golden ticket, but a wonderful treasure of things otherwise. Thank you, Patricia. I'm glad that you enjoyed it or are enjoying it. Let's see. Is there a source for the blanks for the counted cross stitch project? Christy, great question. So we are going to be having a lot more blanks and things of this nature at sulky.com. Since that was a special mystery box item, it was a limited run just for the mystery boxes, but we will be having more similar things like that with different counts and whatnot at sulky.com. And since you are here watching on So What, as long as you continue to watch every Tuesday, you can also subscribe to our email newsletter, and you will be the first to know when those hit the website, and you can grab some more up for the holidays, for gift giving, all kinds of things. All right, I just want to make sure I'm addressing any more mystery box questions before we dive in to today's project. Leslie saying, love the projects. Got mine, no ticket. Oh, I'm excited to know who got a golden ticket. So, yay. All right. Received my box. Fantastic. Christy says, couldn't find my golden ticket. Oh, well, hopefully everybody still feels like a winner with, all the items in the mystery box. All right. I promise you there's winners. I promise you. I did see on our Sulky Facebook page that someone said, look, I got a golden ticket. I'm so excited. So, all right. Sandra says, I received mine, no ticket. All right. Well, hopefully somebody can come out of the woodwork here and tell us that they're a winner so we can celebrate you. All right. Let's see. So, also, before we get started today, I want to make sure everybody is aware of our In the Hoop Sugar Skulls webcast, because this is happening next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time over at sewingonline.sulky.com. It's next week already. How can that even be? It is August 1st. I'm telling you what, time flies, doesn't it? August 8th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time at sewingonline.sulky.com, we will be joined by the lovely Sue O'Very of Suki Sews. Sue joined us last year for a really fun webcast. It was called Candy Corn Clutch, and we created a Halloween-themed candy corn zipper clutch pouch. Super cute, came in 2 sizes. We have limited kits of that available right now as well. But Sue is coming back to show us how to make these adorable sugar skulls in the hoop of our embroidery machine. And they are made to fit one of those tree-shaped air fresheners. So you can hang this in your vehicle, you can hang it in a bathroom, that type of thing, anywhere you need a little, nice, pretty scent. You also don't have to put a scented tree inside, and you can use them as little ornaments, maybe on a, little Halloween themed or Day of the Dead themed tree of some sort, or you can make it into a garland. You can also use it to house a lollipop and, gift it away as a treat. So they are very, very cute. There are 3 sugar skulls in the collection. Let me see if I can find the correct image. Oh, this is a picture of the sugar skull and how the tree fits inside. So you can conceal those, not so attractive tree air fresheners in a felty cover. So there's a front and a back. We make it entirely in the hoop, and then you pull your air freshener through a little hole at the top and you can hang it. So as I mentioned, if you're not using it for an air freshener, they also make different shapes of these types of flat air fresheners too. I've seen little circle ones. I've seen little square ones. So you don't necessarily have to use a tree-shaped air freshener, but those are so readily available, and you can find so many different scents of them. They're available at Amazon. I've seen them at Walmart, things of this nature. But again, if you're sensitive to scents, I certainly am. I really cannot do floral scents. They just irritate me somehow. There's fruit scented ones, there's the new car smell ones, things like that. But you can also just add a hanging loop to the top, as I mentioned, or insert a lollipop through that upper edge. So lots of different ways you can use these and display them. So there are 3 sugar skulls to choose from. There's the butterfly, the cross, and then the key. If you purchase the kit for this free webcast, you will get the Sugar Skull Air Freshener Covers collection, which comes with all 3 in the hoop designs. And you will also get all the materials needed to create at least 3 air fresheners. You're going to have lots of thread to make lots more air freshener covers. You just might need a little bit more stabilizer if you're going to be making a ton of these, let's say to give out to, a Halloween party, a Day of the Dead themed, moment in time. At any rate, there's bobbin thread. There's polydeco thread for the construction stitches. And then there's a 6-pack of neon thread. So fun. And Halloween is the greatest time to be using our neon thread and our glowy threads and all those great special effects threads. You'll also get a pack of needles. You'll also get the stiffy stabilizer that Sue uses for construction. And then all these fun felty colors, that hot pink, the neon yellow, the orange, a white, and a black. All right, so lots of stuff in this kit. And again, if you purchase the kit, you will also get the embroidery collection included with your purchase of the kit. If you already have tons of felty, neon thread, what have you, you can purchase up just the In the Hoop design collection, which is $15. All right. But I will say with this $15, if you grab up the kit, it's on sale for only $47.99 and you get all of this other stuff as well. So for an additional, 30 some odd dollars, you also get all the materials all conveniently, kitted up for you. So if you grab that up today, you will likely get it in time for the webcast next Tuesday, depending on where you're from and what shipping method you choose. And let's see. First and foremost, be sure that you have registered for the free webcast. So head on over to sewingonline.sulky.com. If you don't have an account on our education site yet, it will prompt you to sign up for one. And all you have to do is, create a username and password, and you'll have an account there. And you can start adding our events to your own personal library. That means you can access them at any time after the live events, during the live events, of course. And it's a really great resource. We have lots and lots of free webcasts. Our legacy webinars are up there. We also have our special sewing sessions, our special events like our New Year's Eve sew-alongs and things like that. So you can browse the education offerings, but be sure to register for the Sugar Skulls so you can join us live next Tuesday at 2 p.m. And if you can't join live, you'll want to register anyway, because as I mentioned, you'll be able to watch it in its entirety, pause, rewind, fast forward, all of that good stuff after the live event ends. So even if you can't join us live, you'll still have access to it and can watch the whole thing at your leisure. Also, just for registering, Suki Sews is giving everybody who registers this adorable free caramel apple design. I mean, so cute. This is also a little In the Hoop project, and you can add a bow or add a little tag or add a name and personalize it along the little caramel applique piece. And this also makes a really cute party favor, or even an ornament if you add a little hanging loop. So lots of fun things in store next Tuesday. So make sure that you're all registered for that. All right. Joan says, I don't understand the significance of the skull. Can you explain? Great question. All right. So the sugar skulls are motifs from Dia de los Muertos, which is a holiday, really, that happens on the day after Halloween. So November 1st is the Day of the Dead. And in Mexican culture, they celebrate the Day of the Dead. Oh, thank you. We have added some of a great resource in the chat as well. I guess it's November 1st and 2nd. I always grew up knowing it as November 1st. But it is a day of remembrance for those in your family who have passed. So people will, bring out photos of all of their loved ones and celebrate them. And so a lot of motifs like sugar skulls, like skeletons, like butterflies, motifs that have significance for your family members who have passed. And I always say, if you are unfamiliar with this holiday, of course you can Google and see what it's all about. And even if that's not your culture or heritage, I think it's just a really, it's a really sweet thing to do, to spend a day kind of thinking about our loved ones that have meant so much to us that are no longer with us. But if you're unfamiliar with it, there's a really great movie out there called Coco. It's a Disney movie, and it really explains Dia de los Muertos very well. It tugs at your heartstrings. It's one of my favorite movies, actually. And so look that up if you, happen to have a streaming service or something that has that movie, or just, kind of check it out. Because I think it's a really sweet way of explaining sort of how it works and why it is celebrated. So even though, you may not know this holiday or, have learned about these motifs in the past, it's just also a really great design for Halloween in general. We're always kind of decorating with skeletons and kind of spooky things. And I don't know. I think it's universally appealing, regardless of, your background and heritage and whatnot. So, and such cool designs and really, really neat use of that neon thread. All right. Sharon said, I just registered for the webcast. Sulky webcasts are the best. And Lori wants to know where the link is to register. So I put the link in the description of today's post. You'll see a little see more button because, the whole post doesn't populate on Facebook or YouTube. So you can click on see more. The whole description for today will pop out. You will see a link to all the featured products I'm about to talk about with today's watermelon themed project. And you'll also see a link to register for the Sugar Skulls webcast. So click on that. It'll take you right on over to sewingonline.sulky.com, and you can register for the Sugar Skulls webcast. There's also a link for the Sugar Skulls kit. So be sure to grab that one up, and you'll be ready to go. All right. Sharon says, Coco is such a sweet movie. I remember seeing a sneak peek of the movie while in Disney World before it came out. It is such a sweet movie. All right. So lots of people talking about November 1st, November 2nd. So lots of education to be had as well. All right. Involves gathering to pray for and remember friends and family members who have died. Yes. All right. Perfect. All right. I think we're all up to speed with Sugar Skulls in the hoop, and I hope you will all join. Again, I mentioned in a couple days, it is going to be National Watermelon Day. What another great, holiday or national day to celebrate. I don't know about you, but I love me some watermelon. And I decided to hang up my citrus placemats that we went over a few weeks ago because I had an idea of making these placemats for watermelon instead of the citrus fruits. So what you would do is, rather than creating your pattern with the sections for the fruit, right, you would just create the rind and make that your applique, and your background fabric could be that watermelon color, and then you create the green rind piece, and you can have slices of watermelon placemats rather than slices of fruit. So that's why I have the fruit hanging above me, because that was an option for this project. And if you're interested in this project and you missed that so what, where I explained how these come together, you can head on over to our blog at blog.sulky.com and search for citrus slice placemats. But today we're going to be talking about a watermelon tote bag. So I got the idea for this because, oh, my tote bag fell on the floor. I got the idea for this because I am always seeing people out and about, especially at quilt shows and sewing shows and the like, where they will wear a jean jacket and they've appliqued or even sometimes paper pieced a quilt block directly on the back of a jean jacket. The back, I love the back of a jean jacket because it's almost like the back piece is like framed, right, by, the flat felled seams that are usually used to create the jacket. So seeing as how this piece already kind of has a frame to it, it is the perfect medium for things like applique, machine embroidery, and a quilt block. So what I love about that jean jacket idea is that there's so many times where I fall in love with a quilt or a quilt block, and, quite frankly, I either don't have time to make the entire quilt, or, my family has been gifted too many quilts and, just the thought of one more, just for the sake of making it, is overwhelming, or, so many different variables as to why I can't or am not going to make the whole quilt, but I fall in love with the design, or I fall in love with one of the blocks. Well, this is a really great way to display just one singular block, whether it's on a jean jacket or a tote bag like this. So I decided to make it into a tote bag because with this sort of watermelon design, it's not, it's very summery, right? So if I put this on the back of a jean jacket, I'd probably have to retire it for a few seasons. So I thought a tote bag was the perfect medium for this watermelon block. And however, you could choose any quilt block that you love. And the great thing is you only have to make one block. Whereas if you were making an entire quilt, you might have to make 30 blocks, or, sometimes even way more than that, right? And you can also scale up or scale down your block to fit your tote bag or fit your jean jacket. And this is a way to, make that block or make that quilt that you fell in love with and still display it in a way that's not a full quilt. So, enough with my long explanation. You get the idea. And this tote bag is a purchased tote bag blank. I found it at Joann's, and it actually, I think, came in a pack of 2. So there was a bright green and there was a bright pink. And I thought, I'm just going to grab these up, use my coupon, right? Have a couple of tote blanks. They make really great gifts. And you can either display a quilt block on it or put a really great machine embroidery design on it. You can do so many different things with a tote bag blank. But yes, it is just as easy to sew up a quick tote bag as well. We all have so many fabrics and, our stashes are overflowing. So it's a very, very easy type of tote bag to construct. And if you are creating your own, you simply need 2 rectangles of fabric, right? This one's just serged along the edges. Actually, it's 1 rectangle of fabric serged along the edges, and then a little pleat created along the lower edge to give it a little bit of dimension or a little bit of a base. And then the upper edge is simply folded over to attach the little handles, and the raw edge of the handles are concealed in that little upper edge fold. So very simple to construct it, but it was even more simple to just buy it ready-made. So depending on what you would like to do, you can either start with a ready-made tote bag or create your own from scratch. If you're creating your own from scratch, I recommend stitching your quilt block applique to the front of the tote and then sewing up the long edges to finish, because you'll just be able to access the perimeter of your tote for stitching much easier if you do it that way. I will get into how I did it without even having to take this tote apart. So don't worry about that if you're using a ready-made tote bag. So the first thing you want to do is decide on the quilt block that you want to add to your tote bag. And I found this very simple quilt block pattern from Susie Quilts. And if you're not familiar with Susie Quilts, she did our podcast. One of our first episodes that we released, actually, I think she was our very first guest. So if you've never listened to our podcast before, it's called Why I Sew. And it's available for listening on wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Music, Spotify, Google Podcasts. And you can listen and learn a little bit more about her. And she has some really, really great, beautiful quilt patterns on her site. But I found this watermelon pattern. It's for a full quilt, and it's called Mod Melons. And it's actually free. So you can print out this watermelon block totally free off of her website. And I linked directly to it in the blog post tutorial. But I'm sad to say the blog post is going live in a couple of days. So it's not even up yet. You're getting a sneak peek of this project because I wanted to release the blog post on National Watermelon Day. So again, be sure to sign up for our email newsletter, sign up for our, or subscribe to the blog rather, because then you will get notified when this post hits and you'll be able to read through and click on all of the links. But at any rate, this is called Mod Melons, free pattern at susiequilts.com. And really simple. It looks a little bit challenging because we are working with curves, but she really explains it so simply. And, you know, you just have to kind of wrap your head around how the curves go together. And I'll show you what that looks like here as well. All right, so let's get started with it. First and foremost, you need some fabrics, of course, for your quilt block. And I happen to have the most perfect watermelon prints. I mean, it just couldn't get better than this. But if you are unable to find some prints that sort of mimic watermelon, I was so excited when I found this watermelon colored print with the seeds already on it. But you could certainly use a blender or even a solid fabric here, or just another print that has the rosy red watermelon colors to it. And you could even use a little hand embroidery stitch to create some little seeds if you wanted to add that to your print. So just another idea if you can't find this absolutely perfect fabric. So I've got my watermelon meat, so to speak, fabric. And then I have my rind fabric. She does have two different versions of this block. There is one version where it's just one rind. And then there's another one where there's a second strip just inside. So that would be sort of your lighter color green. You know, the part that's kind of bitter when you bite into your watermelon. So I chose the block that just had the one rind curve piece, but you could do one that has two, and then you would just need another fabric print. Then I just chose an off-white color for the background. And that's because I wanted my quilting to really kind of blend in. But you could also use a pretty blue or a different kind of background fabric. And then we need a different fabric for our little binding, which is really our frame for the block itself. So gather up your fabrics. You can really have fun with it. It doesn't have to look like a watermelon print at all. Just as long as you get the colors of watermelon, then, you know, the motif is going to come through. All right. And then we need some thread, of course. I'm going to use Sulky 50 weight cotton thread. It is the best thread for piecing, for quilting that you want to just kind of disappear into the fabric. So I was able to find a watermelon colored thread to match my watermelon meat, and then a green thread to match my watermelon rind. And then, of course, I need the off-white thread for my quilting for the piece as well. Once you've gathered all of your fabric prints and or solids, you'll cut them out according to your watermelon block. Now, as I mentioned, you can use any quilt block pattern that you like. And actually, I did want to measure this for you. But of course, the block that you choose, the size of it can be altered. So if your tote bag measures differently than mine, or you want to create a tote bag from scratch that's wider or longer than this purchased tote bag, just be sure to size up your block so that it, fits the size of your tote. So this block, the finished block, is about 10 1/4 wide by about 10 1/2. All right, so it's rectangular, slightly. All right, and you could see it fits the tote bag rather nicely. You could also create a wider binding or frame to sort of fill out your tote a little bit more if your tote has different dimensions than mine. So just keep that in mind. All right, so this is what the pieces look like for this particular block that I used from Susie Quilts. So you'll cut out all the pieces that you need. I've got my background piece, my border piece, and then of course my thin, narrow binding pieces. So you can see how these curves come together. It looks like they're not fitting at all, right? Because both pieces are curves. We have our concave curve and our convex curve. So I start by sewing a little bit along the curve, and then I just move that strip so that it fits the curve while I'm sewing it. So you want to sew nice and slowly and methodically. Every time you stop to move your rind piece, so that it fits the watermelon piece, you just want to make sure that you are curving it slowly and gently, not stretching it at all. Because since we have that curved cut edge, it's going to have a little bit of stretchability to it, much like a bias cut piece of fabric would. So you just want to make sure you're not stretching it at all to avoid having any puckers. So once you sew that curved edge, then this is what it's going to look like. You can clip into that curve a little bit just to relax it along the seam, and then you're going to press it flat. Then we're going to add that border piece that has, the corner edge and another curved edge to it. So just in the same way that you sewed that rind piece on, you're going to sew that border piece to the curved edge. Once that's complete, you will press it. you want to press toward the darker fabric, excuse me, especially if you're using a light off-white color like I did here. All right, so once we have this, we want to keep pressing as well each time we add another piece, but we're going to add the borders of the block as well. So I've got my top and bottom borders, my side borders, and then again, we're going to fold everything so that it's open, nice and flat, and press everything so that we have one finished block. So you can see how quickly this comes together. I mean, we're almost done. We've got to just quilt it and applique it to our tote bag. So again, much easier than creating, 36 of these or however many we would need to create to make one large quilt. All right, so then we want to prepare our binding strips. And again, I used a very narrow binding, but if you're more comfortable using a wider binding, that's totally up to you. I think mine might be 2 inches wide, and then I folded it in half, so I have a 1-inch binding strip. So then when you sew it to your outer block piece, it's going to be even smaller than that. So I just prepared my binding by making one long binding strip. So I pieced together all of my binding strips and then pressed it all nice and flat. And then you can set that aside while we work on quilting the piece. So to quilt, I'm taking my I can't even speak. I'm taking my batting and attaching my finished quilt block to my batting piece with some Sulky KK2000. And, you could essentially, I guess, omit the batting, but it really gives it a more quilty finished look to it, right? We want sort of that almost trapunto feeling so that it really ends up looking like a quilt block tote. So I like the addition of the batting. It also eliminates show through on any sort of light colored fabric you might be using. And it gives the fabric something to grab onto when we're doing our quilting. So we're going to use Sulky KK2000, which is our temporary spray adhesive, to spray baste our layers together. And now we're going to plot our quilting lines. I am by no means an expert quilter, but I've tried it all. I've tried free motion quilting, quilting in my embroidery machine, straight line quilting, echo quilting, channel quilting. I'm sure there's some quilting I haven't done, but I dabble, and I love doing it. So I just take, shortcuts and sort of cheats anywhere I can because I'm just not that great at eyeballing straight lines. I'm just not, I use all the tools I have at my disposal. You might have a 1/4 inch foot, which is really great for, spacing your quilting lines an exact 1/4 inch away from each other. You might have a quilting guide or a stitch guide or what is it called? Mine's not on my machine right now. All kinds of different tools are there in the universe to help you with especially straight line quilting. So I really wanted to do straight line quilting here because it brings that background fabric all together and makes it look like one piece, right? So all of those pieces for our border and background, I wanted it to just look like one so that our watermelon really just pops off of the center. So I have plotted my straight line quilting, and I think it's about, a 1/2 inch Let me just measure. Yes, all of my lines are exactly a 1/2 inch apart across the entire quilt block. So I plot it using a friction highlighter pen. These erase with heat from your iron. You can use a chalk pencil, whatever, an air soluble marker, all kinds of different options for you. So after you plot your quilting lines, and you don't have to use straight line quilting, you can do echo quilting and have, an outline around your watermelon would be really pretty. You can do free motion stippling, all kinds of things. This is really a great way to practice your quilting because, again, it's just one quilt block. So we can go crazy or we can, be tame with our quilting. All right, so after plotting our quilting lines, we're simply going to sew over the top of them. So I chose a fabric that totally blended in with that off-white background. But again, if you want your quilting to pop, or if you want to add a little bit of metallic sparkle to the background, by all means, choose the color that you love for your quilting. After that, I also added some quilting to the watermelon itself. All I did was, with matching thread for the rind, I just went just inside of the rind piece to quilt that down. But again, you could go back and forth, maybe in a zigzag all across your rind. You could do curved lines and do several of them across your rind piece, totally up to you. Then I switched my thread color. So you could see I positioned my needle just inside of where the rind is connected or pieced. Then I switched thread colors to the watermelon color, and I did the same thing and stitched just inside of the watermelon meat. I'm sorry that I'm calling it meat. I can't think of what else to refer to it. So just inside, so that thread just kind of disappears as well. And now our watermelon is attached. So if you don't have seeds printed on your fabric and you want to add those, now would be the time as well to either just add some long straight stitches with some 12 weight cotton thread. Just quickly do those by hand, or you could stitch a little bit of a satin stitch across, your watermelon fabric, just using your sewing machine, and add some little detailing inside of the watermelon meat. Once you have it quilted to your liking, all you need to do is kind of square up your block so that if anything was wonky or, your border piece was a little bit longer on one side, just be sure to square it up so that it's nice and even on all 4 sides. Then we are going to remove our fabric marker. So I'm removing mine with the heat of an iron, but it's very important to remember that if you use an air-soluble or a water-soluble marking pen, sometimes those become permanent if you touch it with a hot iron. So make sure to remove any markings before you do any pressing, unless you're using a heat removable pen. Then you can press it and remove the markings in one fell swoop. All right, so I just want to be sure, I know you're seeing an iron here, but make sure to remove those markings according to the manufacturer's instructions. I've done that too many times, and so now I almost always use a heat removable marking pen just to err on the side of caution. All right, so after everything, now you can see, you can't even see my quilting lines. That's how much they kind of disappear into the fabric because now I have removed those. All right, so now it's time to add our binding piece. And yes, it's not even attached to anything yet, but this is our frame for our block so that it looks nice and finished when we go ahead and stitch it to our tote bag. So I use copious amounts of Wonder Clips to attach my binding all the way around my quilt block. And I miter the corners as I reach them. And this is how I do it. If you're new to adding your own binding or binding a quilt, binding a upper edge of a bag, that kind of thing, and you want nice crisp corners, when you get to the corner, you want to fold your binding back over itself so that there's a nice 45-degree angle on that binding corner, and the corner of the binding is touching the corner of the block. Then we're going to fold it back over itself again with that 45-degree angle underneath and align the raw edge with the adjacent quilt block edge. So now we have this little flap, corner flap, right, that we are going to sew up against, and that's going to miter our corner really nicely. So when we go to turn it toward the right side, we're going to have a nice 45-degree angle corner right there. All right, so you'll do that with all four corners, and you want to be sure to join your binding ends along one long edge. We don't want to join our ends at a corner because that's going to kind of mess with our nice mitered points, okay? So for joining the ends, you can either overlap them. So we will open up the folds, overlap the ends, trim each end a little bit beyond the other, and then, our fold will be around that raw edge, concealing it, which is what I did here. Or you can meet your binding edges, mark along the sides where they meet, take it over to the sewing machine, unfold your folds, and piece them together. So it's totally up to you, the way that you like to do your binding, the way that you prefer. But for this, I just overlapped the ends, making sure that all of my raw edges were tucked to the wrong side, and kept it really easy peasy that way. After the ends are overlapped, I simply add a Wonder Clip, and then I finish stitching, that edge of the binding. So after your binding is sewn on, we are just going to fold it to the right side. We're not wrapping it around anything. We're not actually binding anything with it. We're just using it to frame our quilt block. So that's why you can get away with having a very narrow binding, because it doesn't need to actually fold around something. So I fold it to the right side and give it a nice press. And again, I am folding it, or I'm keeping my seam allowance rather, toward the binding. So it is a little bit bulky, but it's manageable, and we're going to top stitch it down anyways. So we're going to fold it to the right side and give it a really, really good press. And now for the fun part, as if all of it wasn't fun to begin with, but we are simply going to add some Perfect Applique fusible web to the entire back side of our block. So you want to cut a piece that's just slightly smaller than the whole block, including that framed border. And I say just slightly smaller because we don't want any fusible web peeking out beyond the border. So just cut it just inside of your border binding piece. All right. So once you've cut your fusible web, we're going to apply it to the back side of our block. So you simply put the fusible side down over the wrong side of your block and then fuse it on the paper side of the fusible web using a low to medium temp iron. Once we have that fused in place, we're going to remove the paper backing, center our quilt block on our tote bag, whether it's our purchase tote bag or our handmade tote bag. You can center it on the front of the bag, and I just made sure to position the upper edge of the block about 1 inch below that upper edge casing seam. I didn't want it to abut with that because, as I mentioned, we have a little bit of bulk here. So I wanted to be sure to have a nice wide border. So it's not essentially centered up and down. I positioned it a little bit lower on purpose so that I avoided where my straps are attached. So depending on the tote bag that you're using, just keep those things in mind if there's any elements or straps that you need to avoid. Once you have that in place, you'll fuse your completed quilt block to your tote bag. And then we're going to top stitch it down. So I chose the watermelon colored thread for my top stitching. But obviously, if you have a different fabric print or different color for your binding, you can match your thread to the binding that you choose. And this picture is pretty important here because you can see I'm going to use the free arm on my sewing machine. So take off your accessory tray so that you can really get in there and you don't have to really finagle with your tote bag too much to reach your lower edge seam. All right. So keep that in mind too. If you have a purchased tote bag that doesn't have much give to it or much room to it, then you're going to have trouble getting along the bottom of your bag. And you might have to undo one or both of your side seams in your purchased tote in order to access that lower edge area. But I had no problems using my free arm, and there's, you might have to turn your bag wrong side out to access some of those areas. So just, sew slowly and carefully so that you can stop and start, leaving your needle down in the fabric when you're stopping, and kind of maneuver your fabric out of the way of the stitching as you go. And that's the great thing about using the fusible web here, is because your quilt block is fused in place. So when you need to do any of that maneuvering, your quilt block isn't going to go anywhere, and you don't run the risk of it shifting out of place while you are trying to top stitch it down. So I just top stitched the very edge of the binding, but you could also top stitch right below as well and add 2 rows of stitching if you prefer. That's also a pretty look as well. And it helps you manage that bulk too, because you're stitching right along that seam of your binding or your frame piece. So that's up to you if you want to add a second row of stitching. I just top stitched along the very outer edge, or edge stitched rather. So here you can see I started at the top and then worked my way around the entire quilt block and just moving things out of the way as I went. And then you'll probably need to give it a little bit of a press depending on how, if you needed to scrunch it up while you were sewing it. But then you can press it nice and flat, and you have your finished watermelon tote bag. All right, so let me see. I'm going to address some of the questions. Let's see. Where can I get the block? All right, Diana. So the block pattern is from Susie Quilts. It's called Mod Melons. So you can Google that, or you can wait until our Sulky blog drops in a couple of days on August 3rd, which is National Watermelon Day. I was just giving you a little sneak peek of it here this morning. But it is a Susie Quilts watermelon block called Mod Melons, and it is free on her website. All right, let's see. The block is just adorable. All right. Love the fabric used for the watermelon rind. I know, sometimes you just stumble upon the most perfect fabric. And quite honestly, I have had this watermelon themed fabric for a while. And I'm going to show you a bonus project today where I first used this watermelon fabric. I actually found it in a fat quarter bundle at my local fabric store. And I was like, I will figure out a way to use this because it was adorable. And I have found so many different uses for it. So it was just perfect for this project. So let's see, I will go right into it. And also this Hello Summer machine embroidery palette also features a watermelon design called Slice of Summer. You see it on there? So this is available at sulky.com. It's a machine embroidery palette, which means it comes with 10 spools of sulky rayon thread that coordinate with these 6 summer-themed embroidery designs. You also get all the embroidery designs when you purchase up the thread palette. It's 6 designs in 3 sizes, and they're all really great for summer. I've used them in so many projects on the Sulky blog, but Slice of Summer is just perfect for National Watermelon Day as well. And you could also use that on your tote bag. You could even add a little embroidery design or monogram or something on your watermelon meat fabric. The more I say that, the more it's just the weirdest thing. So I'm going to stop saying watermelon meat. But at any rate, today's freebie for one lucky viewer who is watching, sharing out the post, commenting, somehow engaging with the post today. You can also give me those great emojis, and that would be considered engaging with the post. As long as you have either liked our Sulky Facebook page or subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're watching from YouTube today, then I can contact you if you're a winner. You will win the Hello Summer Machine Embroidery Collection. So I will pick one winner at random, and you will know it's me and not a weird bot or spammer by the message I send you when you are a winner. So Hello Summer Machine Embroidery Collection is today's little door prize for one lucky viewer. But I'm going to show off the Slice of Summer watermelon design, of course, because dun, 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 National Watermelon Day. So this is the project that I did last summer. And I don't even think it was for National Watermelon Day. It was just a great summer project. And it really came out of necessity because I was going to a potluck and I did not have one of those mesh food tents. And I thought for sure that there were going to be flies or, let's just say things that I did not want getting in the food, right? So I decided to make my own food tent and showcase the Slice of Summer design on it. So it's got some mesh fabric. It has some heavy duty interfacing in it, so it stands up on its own. And it has some straps, so you can easily grab it, lift it off of your bowl of food, and what have you. This tutorial is at the Sulky blog, and I link directly to it in the description of today's post. So if you're interested in using that Slice of Summer design or any of those summer designs from our Hello Summer Machine Embroidery Collection and palette, this is a great sort of medium for those designs and also another great summer project. It features that really great foam interlining. So that's how it stays up on its own, but it still has a nice hand to it, right? So it's kind of, squishy and foamy. All right. So this Slice of Summer design, here's another image of it. So you can see, the bowl of watermelon inside protected by that mesh fabric. And this mesh fabric I got, let's see, from By Annie byannie.com. She has a lot of different colors of mesh fabric, and she also has fold over elastics that match the mesh fabric. So the interior of this food tent has all exposed seams. So what I did was I covered up all of the seams using matching fold over elastic. So all of those raw edges are then concealed by the great FOE, fold over elastic. All right, so Marcia says, I remember when you did this tutorial. Yeah, it's a little bit more involved of a project, but you know, there's step-by-step instructions for it on the Sulky blog. So if you're interested in making that to celebrate National Watermelon Day, or just to, you know, have a great functional project that you can take to a picnic, family reunion, you know, all kinds of things like that, it also makes a really great gift too. All right. Liz says, I made it and loved it so much that it is covering my mixer, which is out all the time. Awesome. That is a great idea. Would make nice gifts. Perfect. All right, great. So be sure to like our Facebook page if you haven't already. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. That way you can be eligible to win our Hello Summer machine embroidery collection with these great 6 summer-themed embroidery designs. And the collection comes with all 6 designs in 3 sizes. So I love having multi-size designs where you don't have to go and buy all the different sizes of one design just to get them all, because you never know what project you want to create. You can also just slap that slice of summer design right on your purchase tote bag as well. But I love the idea of adding a fun quilt block to a tote bag or even the back of a jean jacket. And that way I get to make lots of quilty items without having to make an entire quilt from start to finish. Now, there's definitely a time and place to make an entire quilt, but I'm just saying there's so many adorable quilt blocks and so little time. Am I right? So this is a really great way to display any quilt block that you find, as long as you can either alter the dimensions to fit a bag or fit your jean jacket or what have you. So it's a great way to experiment with your own quilting. If you normally send out your quilts to a long armor or something like that, this is a really manageable small project where you can drop the feed dogs and try your hand at free motion work, or do some more intricate quilting, or keep it simple like I did and do the straight line quilting. So lots of different options to personalize this, make it your own, whether you're displaying a watermelon or something else of your choice. All right, let's see. Mary Lou says placemats would be really cute. That's a really great way also to display smaller quilt blocks. So great idea. Great idea. All right. Delroy says, are people in the UK eligible for the giveaway? Yes, you are today. Today, we can have international winners as well, because we're just giving away a digital design collection. So everybody's eligible. All right. Jennifer says, watermelon bag sounds really cute. Thank you. All right. I hope you all enjoyed. And they're telling me, let's see, only a couple more mystery boxes remain. So be sure to grab yours while you still can, because once they're gone, they're gone. And I can't wait to see what you will all create with the items in your box. So be sure to join our Facebook group, which is called Sulky Stitch and Post. There's a ton of us on there already, sharing our projects, pictures, questions, chatting it up with one another. It's a really great place to connect with other people working on the same things as you, or just reach out for advice and things like that when you're working through your sewing projects. So be sure to join us there and post pictures of your mystery box and what you create with it. All right. Fantastic. Well, Be sure to also register for our In the Hoop Sugar Skulls free webcast happening next Tuesday already at 2 p.m. Eastern Time over at sewingonline.com. Be sure to register so you can get your freebie from Suki Sews, and you can add this to your library and watch it anytime you like once our live event ends. So be sure to register for that. Grab up your kit. I can't wait to see you next Tuesday for it. And I will also see you next Tuesday for another So What. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.